What's going on, everybody? It is your man Cleveland Terry, and today we are going to be doing a first look slash general review of the new Maui 28 G3s from LD. This is their brand new update to their previous G2 lineup. If you guys know, the 44G, the Maui 44G is considered to be one of the best speakers out there, but for a lot of people, it was very big. It was a little too big for what they were trying to do. I mean, even for myself, when I looked at the 44Gs, I'm like, they sound great, but they're very, very large for a column array. So, in hearing all the feedback from all of the consumers out there, they came out with an updated version of their 28. Remember, this used to be the G2. This is the G3. So we're gonna do, it's kind of an unboxing. I can't really call it an unboxing because I've already unboxed it and used it on an event, but we will talk about it a little bit here. So first off, I like the bags. I like the bags that these guys come with. I have several different types of column arrays and every bag is a little different. These bags seem to be more connected with how a DJ would use them. It has, you know, your typical handles for the sides. You have a top handle with two Velcro pieces, one to close up the handle, the other one if you need to keep it open and you need to carry it around. So that's very, very great thinking. Also on the back side, we do have a pouch for your power cords. I believe if you use the 44Gs, you are rocking power cons. These are standard IEC ports, which I actually love. I know a lot of people love the power cons, but I love the fact that, I don't know, I don't have to think about, did I bring my power con, because any plug that I typically use are gonna work with these guys. So this is the first look of the sub. It's a pretty looking sub. The grading, everything is just nice and clean. It is a birch plywood shell, so it's definitely weighty. It's about 53 pounds and you can feel the weight, but still very, very easy to kind of move around with because of the fact that there's all of these grab points. There's even a grab point on the bottom right here. So then it makes it easy to just kind of pick this guy up like so and carry it on in. Big fan of the design of this box. And then once we open up the actual columns here, again, excellent design bag. Everything fits in exactly the way it is. You have these little protectors on your column arrays. So when they're not being used, the poles aren't sticking through and putting holes in your cases. But it basically just extends off and goes right into the pole here. And there's a slot for it, so it's not going anywhere. These things are totally fit in here. Good thing. And then you got your other one that goes right on top of that. We'll do a little sound test in a minute, but let's talk a little bit about the specs. Now, I've only had this guy for a week and a half now, so I only got a chance to take him out one time. Fortunately, it was the best possible scenario because it was a smaller room and there was about 110 people in the room, so this is a perfect test case scenario for this speaker. By the way, let's talk about specs. I'm not gonna go through the details, I'm just gonna post them right here. If you were unsure about the difference between the G2 and the G3, well, there's a couple things I'm gonna talk about, but first off, the first thing they've done is they've actually modified the subwoofer. There's an actual full 12-inch subwoofer in the box. Before, there was, I believe, 2 8s, and you definitely can hear it, you can feel it, it's a very good sound. The uppers, if you've used the Maui 44s, they sound very similar. The sound that comes out of these highs, very impressive. In fact, that was the first thing that I noticed about these speakers was how good the highs sound. And I've worked with Bose and I've worked with the JBLs, and this is just a really warm sounding high. Now, there are 12 3.5-inch tweeters inside of here, and they're all custom tuned by LD to provide maximum benefit. The range, I believe, is somewhere around 120 degrees. Good, it's a nice full thing. I actually don't like it when the degree is open too much because then you risk all that feedback and you risk all of the unnecessary sound kind of going everywhere. I do like it when it's more directed at the dance floor than just everywhere. I'm not gonna talk SPLs, I did put them on the side here. I'm gonna talk about just my experience using the product in a party environment. Everything was good. I was able to push the sound, didn't have any problems. I didn't really hear any I don't know, bottom out dropouts that you normally have with some column arrays when you're pushing them too hard, and then the limiter kicks in and kind of pulls everything down to give it a chance to cool off. Maybe the reason that this doesn't happen is because of this really nice heatsink that's on the back. Now, why do they have heat sinks? Well, because the amplifier in the box gets really, really hot, and especially if you're pushing it, trying to get all max SPL, you're going to have a burning up amplifier. So the heatsink here allows for the heat to dissipate a little better, allowing you to have more range, more time in that higher SPL than maybe in some other ones. So I'm glad that the heatsink is here. The one thing I will say, if you're used to the G2, you'll notice something glaringly missing, and that is all of the inputs. There's only the XLR inputs. There's no mixer board in the system. There's not even a parametric EQ in here. What you see is what you get. Now, I will say this, I plugged directly into this box with my Rev 7 microphone going from the Rev 7 obviously all the way through. Didn't have an issue, sounded good. Obviously, the easiest way to EQ something like this is to make sure that your subs are higher than your high. So basically put your sub at like 2 or 3 o'clock, keep your high right at about 12, and then turn the master volume all the way up on your system. And then you should have a good balance. But if you're trying to get granular, even in their LD manual, the only layouts that they even put on there all had mixers on them. So that's one thing to keep in mind, that if you're buying this particular box, if you're trying to get detailed, if you're doing ceremony sound or any of that stuff, you're going to need a mixer because you only have the 2 inputs here. Now, as far as the sound is really good coming out of it. The bass was good. It's not gonna be 44G2 bass, okay? Let's just get that out of the way. It's not the same. I do believe that the highs are probably very similar to the 44s, but the bass, obviously, smaller cabinet, smaller speaker, you're gonna have less bass. But was the bass hitting on the party? Yes, it's a very full sound. It's not as punchy as like the 44G, or maybe just having kind of a standard speaker setup, but it's very warm, and the bass is throughout the entire spectrum, along with the highs. It's a really good combination. The one thing I will say is these speakers on their own, basically, because I have 2 of these, so basically the speakers on their own set up to the sides, you're gonna get a good sound. But if you really want that bass impact, if you really want it to hit, I put these guys in cardioid mode, and it was like night and day how much more bass came out of the single high, the single column, and 2 of the subs. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, this is the first model of the 28G3, and there's also a smaller version, which is an 11. I would probably use that more for like cocktail or just like kind of background music, but this is more for like your party atmosphere. But again, limited in your party atmosphere. I wouldn't use this thing above 80 to maybe 110 people, and the room has to be a shallower room. You don't want it to be too big. I think the bass would just be eaten alive. But they sound really good in smaller rooms, and I've been a big fan of having multiple systems to do different things. If I'm doing a smaller party, I 100% will always take my column arrays because they're just easier. They're easier, the sound is good, there's not as much weight that I have to carry around. It's just, it's comfort food. So I always prefer to take them. If I'm doing a party of 130 and up in a bigger room, I'm gonna take my standard speakers. But for anybody that has a 44G, this is a nice option for when you do have the smaller parties. Because the 44Gs, they are big speakers. I don't know anybody out there who looks at them and doesn't see big speakers, because that's what I see. But there is the 28, which is this one, and the 11. They both come in both black, which you see here, and in white. There's also going to be another line coming up in the same sizes that is what they call their mix system.
The Maui G3 mix versions will be available in the beginning of 2024 and will offer many exciting features. Maui G3 Mix will feature a 6-channel mixer, app control, onboard effects, a foot switch input, and the brand new Sys-Link function. that will allow you to connect two Mauis to one another in order to double the mixer channels.
Here. This is kind of the entry into it. And for what it is, I don't have a price yet. I don't have a price, but I believe the G2 was sitting at around $1,500. The G2 did have more inputs, so it'll be interesting to see what price they come out with this one, and then when they come out with their mix, which is not supposed to be coming out until 2024. But one thing I will say is, again, I made this thing work without having to bring my mixer, and it was just fine. Did not have an issue. It sounded great. Sounds also great in cardioid mode. If you end up getting one of these, and then maybe the mix system comes out, and you want to use the mix system for when you're doing ceremonies and you have the larger type things, you take these guys and put them in cardioid mode. I never get that word right. Cardioid mode. And trust me when I tell you, you're not going to have any issues with bass. You got to know what your system is good for. And this is for those smaller parties. This would also make a fantastic cocktail speaker that can also act as a backup. Last thing that we need to do, let's do a quick sound check of these boys. I think what I'm going to do, I'm not going to do it this time, but we're going to do just a straight sound check of this speaker. Next video, we will do a sound check comparison between this guy and the Bose L132s, and we can see a difference. And maybe we'll do one of like just a standard speaker. So not really sure, but we're going to have fun doing it. All right, let's do this test. Oh, one thing I did forget. Even though it did remove all of the access points besides the standard XLRs, it does have Bluetooth. So we're gonna stream audio right to this to get a good idea of how it sounds. And then we'll go from there. But stacking them is easy. And this goes right on top, just like so. And now this thing is not going anywhere. I do like the fact that they're in the speaker, because the one thing I deal with dealing with other companies that maybe have dedicated ones like the Bose, people grab onto them. They grab onto them, they walk by, they use it as like a pole. I do like that this is in the speaker, so it's a lot more obvious what this thing is. I know people are silly. What we are going to do real quick is we are going to make the sub. We're going to hold the Bluetooth to get it to connect. And hopefully it pops right up. It's blinking. LD Maui 28G3. There we go.
Boss ass.
I'm gonna say something. These guys sound really, really good. Sometimes when you look at something and you look at the size, you're like, there's no way the bass, there's no way that that mids and that warmth could come out. It absolutely comes out of these speakers. Now, again, there is a maximum level that you can push these. You push them too hard, and then the bass is gonna crumple right in front of you. You're gonna notice more popping than you are gonna have warm bass. So you have to make sure that you get your balance accurate. But the highs sound amazing. Speakers all the way through here. And then the sub, it's tuned perfectly. Again, no mixer right now. I'm just going Bluetooth out. So what you're hearing is just what the speaker does. I have no complaints about this speaker. You have two of these, or you have one of these and one sub in cardioid mode. For a lot of places, that's going to be more than enough. But if you need sound for an entire room, then I would definitely say you need two of these just for balance more than anything else, but also because unless you're running it in cardioid mode, you're going to need a little more bass for a room. This is just me in my office, in my warehouse. So it's going to sound better for me right now than once you're in a room and you got a whole bunch of bodies on the dance floor, which is why you're going to need that secondary one to compensate for it. I'm not over pushing it. I guarantee you if I tried to put that main volume at 3 o'clock versus at 12, you'd start to hear the limiter kick in and then the subwoofer just fall apart. As long as we're smart with our speakers, it's not an issue. I mean, I'd run into that same thing with larger systems. You can only go so hard with them. But this is a very, very good speaker. And the size-wise, I put it in my truck. I still had so much space in my truck. These are my go-tos. These are my go-tos for anything, I don't know, 100, maybe even 110 away. And especially if I'm doing a big system, I'm doing a big party where there's 300 people and then I got a cocktail hour, I wouldn't hesitate to bring one of these for cocktail. You hear how it sounds. That would sound amazing outside in a cocktail room. So take a serious look at them. Take a serious look. And if this isn't your jam because you need the mixer setting and you don't want to bring the whole external mixer, well, you know they got another one coming out at the end of the year. They'll be at NAMM next week, so if you really want to get a good listen to them, make sure you check the LD booth and tell me what you think. Leave them in the comments below. All right, guys, if you found what I said here useful, hit that like button. If you found what I said here really useful, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you follow me on the Instagrams and the Twitters. Get on my Discord because that's where we're talking about all things Cleveland Terry. Guys, girls, always a pleasure. If I don't talk to you later, we'll talk soon. Peace.